Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC out in the wilds of the Kingdom of the Moorlands today to make some content on some walkie-talkies, specifically from the company Rocky Talkie, which I think I'm supposed to say with American accent, like Rocky Talkie, because then it kind of rhymes, but I say Rocky Talkie, which anyway. So they've sent me these. I've spent the last couple of months actually testing these. I got these way before Christmas. My wife and I, Mrs. Moorlander, she's been out, we've tested these on a few different walks. Now I will say the majority of the testing that I've actually got from these is whilst playing airsoft. We'll have a look at the specifications in a minute when we actually get out here, but they do have one of those Kenwood connectors on there, so if you've got a headset, you've got some cans that have a push to talk in these, it will work on these. But I thought it'd be useful today to actually get out to give you an idea of how these work and really why it's useful to be able to carry a walkie-talkie whilst you're out doing whatever it is that you're doing in the wild, whether it's for safety reasons, whether it's for quality of life reasons, whether it's just because they're useful to have because they're kind of cool. So we're going to go set up kind of a couple of different little situations to give you some examples of how they'd be used. There'll be a little bit of me while I'm walking in between the different parts, and yes, Mrs. Moorlander and Norman's here today because I need somebody to talk to. So let's take a closer look at the Rocky Talkie walkie-talkies. Okay, so here we have the Rocky Talkie Mountain Radio. Now, just to be clear, there are two versions of this. This is the 2-watt radio. They also do a 5-watt radio as well. Whether you're here in the UK, I believe it's the same for the US. It's probably the same for the majority of Europe as well. For a 2-watt radio, pretty okay to use. If you're having a 5-watt radio, then there is a simple radio license that you need here in the UK. I believe the FDA in the US have a similar one, so yeah, but very easy, very simple to use. Whew. Kind of pooped after that. I need to get out here more often and get that energy back in the legs. Now this is kind of the first example that I thought of, which is a very common example. That is, you're out, you're camping, maybe you've come to do a climb like this. It's a very popular place for climbing. You've got your first pitch, you've realised you've left something back down in the car and someone's going to have to go and pick something out of the car. Having a radio for the person that's down there, what is it you're after, all of that sort of stuff. Now what I'll do is I'll put in with Google Maps some information as far as how far I am away from the car and the height difference. There's quite a considerable height distance here. Hopefully you can see as I turn around the map. I'm quite precariously stood here, although I know I'm in a good position. I'm at least 3 or 4 meters away from the edge. But yeah, so Mrs. Moorlander is still down in the car. Now the car is just over, not there, just over the brow of this little hill here. So it isn't a direct line of sight, but you know, things aren't perfect. So let's see exactly how this works. Grey squirrel to silver fox, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
What's the temperature like down there? What's the temperature like down there?
I know, I'm in the car.
Perfect answer. I'll move on to the next point. Right, do you want to start walking up now to Hen Cloud and I'll be at the top of the Roaches and I'll talk to you there?
Okay, speak to you in a bit.
Yep. So, I'm right at the top. If you know the area, there's a climb here that I'm stood right at the top of called the Sloth. So I'm right at the top of the Sloth. Over there is Hen Cloud. I'll just turn the camera around here. So there is Hen Cloud. Mrs. Moorlander is right at the top of Hen Cloud. Apologies for any wind noise that you might be able to hear. So this is direct line of sight. Now with direct line of sight you can get up to 25 miles with this. Now then it does vary past line of sight. So if you're walking through the mountains, you can get 3 to 5 miles. If you're walking through hills, you can get between, I think it was a half mile up to 3 miles. So you can still get good distance with this. It depends on what there is. The main reasons for the differences between the hills is because there's a lot more vegetation, especially through forests as well. In the mountains, you've got harder substances for the radio signals to be able to bounce off. My knowledge on exactly how radios work is a little limited, but what I can say is when I talk to Mrs. Morlander now, she should be able to hear me perfectly. Custard cannon to vanilla slice, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Any crackling or any hiss or anything like that?
Oh, even less so than when we were in the car, to be fair.
Ah, okay, brilliant. I think that's because of the line of sight. So before, you were just tipped behind, you couldn't see me exactly. Is she going to reply? Probably not. But, as Mrs. Morlander said, because you've got that clear line of sight, the signal comes through a lot better. Now, I'm going to walk up to Dokes' pool, which is probably another, well, it's probably about halfway across. Mrs. Morlander's going to stay there. So now, we're going to have a lot of this rock in between the two of us, and we'll see if you can hear any difference. So now going through, the interface on this is fairly simple. On the top here, this is your on and off button. Whilst it's on, if you push it down, it will tell you how much battery life you have. Had these fully charged this morning, so we're on 100%, but there is a display underneath the front here. On the top, you have your scan and your lock button. So at the moment it's not locked. If I push the lock button forward, hopefully you'll see that little lock logos come on there. Push it again. It's now unlocked. On the right hand side, underneath here, so as I mentioned, I have used this, so I'm trying to do this with one hand, but there is underneath there a push to talk, which uses one of the Kenwood dual plugs. So if you have some nice cans that you have a push to talk on, you can use this. Works incredibly well for airsoft. Stick it in your pack, put it in your little radio pouch, you're off for the day. The battery life on this is amazing. In the time that I've been testing this, had this a few months now, I've only needed to charge it once, and that was after 2 full days of heavy airsoft. But I will say the battery life on these is exceptional compared to other radios. And then on the left hand side, you have your button here, which is your push to talk, and then underneath here you have either your high and low, and then you have also your I forget how they what's this, but so you can set it so that whilst you're talking, if you need to add like a key to it so that it adds a security feature to it, you can do this with this. Now if you just press up and down, hopefully you'll be able to see that it just changes the volume that comes through here. But if you want to change between either high or low, so it's currently on high, if I do a long press on this, you see that it's changed it to low. Do another long press, it will change it back to high. Now that's really dependent on your signal strength, so I will say whilst it's on high, the quality of the audio, the range that you'll get from it will be much better and much further, but you will find that it eats the battery a little bit quicker. Personally, I've always had it on high and it's been fine. On low, then it does reduce the distance and it reduces the quality of the sound, but if you know that it's only over short distances, then it will mean that your battery will last a little bit longer. And then on the bottom here, this is where you can add that security key to it, so you can then use, you turn that on, just need to remember that I'm on 38, and then you can then move through these to be able to add different keys to it. That just means, I think it's after, so when you're on channel, let's just press that again, so when you're on channel it's over 23 or higher up to 128, then you can add those onto that. On the ones less than those, then you don't, or at least you can't add those to them. The construction itself is pretty solid, I will say, compared to some other radios that, again, you don't really want to drop them. This will definitely take a lot more of a beating. So it's made from a strong resin material, and then on the outside It's like a hard phone protector kind of material. The antenna is pretty tough, but it also comes with one of these Mammoth, which is really nice that they decided to put a Mammoth spring gate on there, which is nice, so you can attach it to things. And then there's also a lanyard that comes included with it as well. Charging this, super simple. You don't have to worry about proprietary chargers. I'm trying to get to do this with one hand, but underneath here there is a USB Type-C charger. So when this arrived to me here in the UK, it came with a US power brick, but didn't have to worry at all because any of my UK power bricks and a USB Type-C charger just works with this. So I've had no issues whatsoever with taking this from the US over to the UK. Now on that point, these are available at this moment in time just in North America. However, they were good enough to send me this to do some testing on it because these will be transatlantic soon. Now whilst I'm out huffing and puffing, I'm currently wearing the Go Rock Mac V2 boots. Made some content on these a while back. Brilliant for this kind of environment. It's almost as though they were made for the moorlands. And also testing out a new smock from Verstelecker, which is the windproof windstopper smock. Lovely and warm. Not because it's lined or it's thermal or anything, but just keeping that wind off you. All I've got is a t-shirt and a flannel shirt on underneath. So yeah, Dokes' pool. So we're now at the top, or even further along the path. We've probably gone up maybe an extra, well, I don't know, 10-15 meters in height. What's that? It's about 30 feet in height. We're now at the fabled Dokes' pool, where the fabled or the legendary mermaid of the moorlands lives. Now, I didn't think that we had direct line of sight to the top of Hen Cloud. Mrs. Moorland is still there. So Hen Cloud, if you just look past this little buttress here, there is still line of sight. So let's test this now. Grey owl to blue-footed booby. Can you hear me?
Clear.
And what's the quality of the sound like? Better? Worse? Is it hissing at all?
Actually better, I think. Slight less hiss.
Brilliant, thank you. Now I'll just drop down a little bit, see if I put some rocks in between us, if it changes. Now Mrs. Moorlander says she can hear me better. I'm hearing a little bit more of a hiss, but it still comes through crystal clear, and it's one of the things that I will say about these compared to maybe some other cheaper ones that are out there. And I nearly went. even some Bofeng ones. The quality of the audio from these is definitely a lot better. Now I've come down maybe about 2 meters from where I was. There's definitely no line of sight now. Mrs. Moorlander, can you still hear me?
You're loud and clear.
Would you say it's hissing more or less?
About the same. It's clear.
Brilliant, thank you. Now I'm going to keep walking on to the trig point. If you're going to stay where you are, I'll be another 10 minutes or so. There we go. Let's keep walking. Now I say 10 minutes. It's a little bit longer than that. So just on the horizon there where you can see some people, that's where we're heading. There's one of the Ordnance Survey trig points there. It's a beautiful place to take some nice photos, and yeah, that's where we'll head next. But I really don't think there's a line of sight from there. There might be actually, but we'll see when we get there. So this is a trig point. You find these all through the UK, and this is what they use to be able to take measurements. So this is the highest point for quite some distance. Well, yeah, it's a beautiful spot purely because of the views. This is what they put their instruments against, and they can map everything. Okay, so there's a trig point right behind me, and Hen Cloud, well, it's over there. It's past the skyline there. Well, it's actually over there, but it's past the skyline. So Mrs. Moreland is still there. We're definitely, well, again, I'll put the coordinates on here with Google Maps so you can see just how far we are away. A lot of rock, but more importantly, a lot of this moorland in between us, which is, well, it's just kind of, I say bush. It's thick heather and, you know, that sort of land. So I'm guessing it will probably soak up the radio signals quite a bit. Randy Rabbit to Sexy Squirrel, can you hear me okay? Say again, can you hear me? I can just about hear you, yes. What is 3 plus 3? No, no.
There's a lot more background noise here.
Yeah, there's a lot more hissing here as well. Right, stay where you are, and I'm going to walk down to Barestone Rock, which will be the last point.
Okay.
So from here we're going to walk on to Barestone Rock, and then we'll see how it is. The signal is a lot more cracklier. I can still hear her. I think she can just about hear me. She couldn't hear me asking the question about the maths, but she could hear me about asking whether it's clear or not. So we'll see with the last stretch. This dips down now into the valley, so there will be more rock between us. So I think this will be stretching what it can possibly do. Now as we come down here to Barestone Rock, you'll see this famous arch that appears as you're walking through. But it's a trick of what's it? It's not actually an arch, they're not joined. But the way that slopes over makes it look like an arch. All of these rocks out here have all been weathered by glaciers over the years. And yeah, have these beautiful features. Now my land here, the Kingdom and the Moorlands, this is just gorgeous, absolutely beautiful, untouched. It's the bottom of the Peak District, which is the start of the Pennines. Pennines are the mountains that run along the spine of England. Well, yeah, they start here in the Kingdom and the Moorlands and then stretch up on into the Peak District. The Peak District is the oldest national park here in the UK, and these are the views. Okay, so after quite a bit of walking, I decided what I'd do is really test these. Now, Barestone Rock is just up there. We're probably about 200-300 meters away from it, close to where it transitions over to where you then start to walk over to like Lud's Church, kind of that way. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I haven't tested this, so this is the first time I've tested it at this distance. Mr. Morlander to Mrs. Morlander, can you hear me okay?
Hearing you loud and clear.
That's better. That's actually better than it was while we were up there. What would you say the radio signal's like? Can you hear me okay?
Okay, but there is quite a bit of hissing.
Would you say better or worse than when I was at the trig point?
About the same, yeah.
I'd say you're clearer now than you were at the trig point. She's a lady of few words. Right, okay, I'll walk down to you now. I'll see you in a bit. Right, I actually thought that was clearer. Now, I don't know why that's clearer. I do know that... I don't know, is there a way that it can come round the rock rather than over it? This is probably where a little bit my kind of knowledge of radio signal is a little bit weak. But what I would say is that using these is really good. And having this to be able to... talk to other people whilst I'm out walking has been great. There genuinely has been a few instances where my girls have left something in the car, they've gone back, we've had a radio with us. There's also a few walks that we've done where you can get to certain points and the path will split. You can do a harder route or an easier route. Generally, Mrs. Morlander or me will take the harder route. We'll give a radio to one of the girls. They'll take the easier route and we'll communicate as we're going through it. Because generally there's probably only about 300 or 400 meters differences between each of the two routes. That's been great as well. And although, probably not as much people will use these for things like airsoft. I have used these for airsoft with a push to talk and a set of cans as well. The place that we play at, Anzio Camp, is an old US Air Force base out in the moorlands, and it's great. The widest part is probably maybe say 600, 700, 800 meters across, but there's buildings, there's kind of quasi forest land there as well. It works perfectly. Myself and my friend, we can communicate, and yeah, they're great. So yeah, really happy with these. Now I do want to say a huge thank you to Rocky Talkie for sending these to me. Hopefully they'll be across the pond soon so that people can get more use from these. For my viewers that are across the pond in North America, I'll leave some links below so that you can pick one of these up, or it'd probably work better if you've got a couple of these. So yes, I'll leave those links below. I'll also leave some of my social media links below. I also want to say a huge thank you to Mrs. Morlander for helping me today. I love you, babe. Yes, so links below. I'll leave some of my social media links below. And yeah, stay safe, stay Morlander, and stay EDC. No, that's looking at you. Not really much for bloopers today as far as, that's concerned, but public service announcement. What I will say is the moors are an absolutely beautiful resource that are open to everybody to come out and have an amazing day. There's some absolutely stunning walks around here. What I will say is just remember the country code. It's easy to find. Search for it on the internet. You can even find versions of it in crayon if you want to help to do it with the kids. There's some important things in there. Sticking to paths. At least knowing where you're going, keeping yourself orientated. Some of the most important ones, and I've seen people doing it today. I pulled 2 people up on it. Yeah, I know I'm a bit of a busybody, but it's important, and it really is important. The first one is keeping your dogs on leads around livestock. There's sheep, there's goats, there's a lot of animals out here. Dogs will want to chase them. You can say, oh no, my little Trixie Belle Lulu Floofy Flops won't chase dogs. Well, I think you'll find they do.
Dogs.
There's also chase livestock, you know what I mean? But there's also a lot of points where they can fall off. A dog will chase whatever over the edge of a cliff, and there you go. The other one is closing gates behind you. That's what I picked up on 2 people today. Close gates behind you. There are lots of signs everywhere that say close gates behind you. Because of livestock, people don't do it. Sorry, it's a bit preachy, but I think it's important to say because this really is a beautiful, valuable resource for everybody to use, and everybody should use it. Get out. It's good for your mind. It's good for your physical well-being. Just look after it. That's all I'm saying, folks. Oh yeah, don't forget. Yeah, well done. Yeah, don't forget your poo bags as well.
No, don't forget.
Oh yeah, don't. I mean, it's fine if your dog wants to take a shit in the woods. That's fine. If you're gonna pick it up, don't just pick up your poo bags and then just tie it to a tree or stick it on a barbed wire fence. Just, yeah. Anyway, love you guys. Hope you have a nice weekend. Get out into the moors and enjoy yourself. Moorlander signing out.